Na bila shaka mpenzi mtazamaji unaendelea kutazama Citizen TV katika runinga hii uipendayo na vile kabisa Sema na Citizen, ambapo tunaelekea moja kwa moja mahakamani, ambapo wakurugenzi wakuu wa kampuni ya kutengeneza vileo Keroche Tabitha Karanja na mumewe Joseph Karanja umefikishwa mahakamani na sasa tayari wanasomewa mashtaka yao. Tuelekee kule moja kwa moja, tujue ni nini haswa kinaendelea na baadhi ya yale mashtaka ambayo watakuwa wanakabiliana nayo.
Okay. Judge will not before court unlawfully made incorrect statements in your excess duty returns for the months of January 2019 to June 2019, which affected your excess duty liability by Kenya shillings 1,097,685,362 payable to the Commissioner as required by the Excess Duty Act number 5 of 2015 laws of Kenya. Tabitha, Joseph Karanja Breweries. Count number 6, you have been charged with fraud in relation to tax, contract section 97 clause A, as well as section 104 clause 3 of the Tax Procedures Act 2015. It said on diverse dates between 20th February 2015 and 20th January 2016, within the Republic of Kenya, being directors of Keroche Breweries Limited, a limited liability company duly registered under PIN P051227284K and the limited liability company, judged with others not before court, and lawfully omitted from your value-added tax returns for the month January 2015 to December 2015, an amount which affected your value-added tax liability by Kenya shillings 310,008,508 payable to the Commissioner as required by the Value-Added Tax Act number 35 of 2015. Tabitha, 202, Joseph Karanja Breweries. Count number 7, you have been charged with fraud in relation to tax, contract section 87 clause A, as well as section 104 clause 3 of the Tax Procedures Act 2015. It said on diverse dates between 20th February 2016 and 20th January 2017, within the Republic of Kenya, being directors of Keroche Breweries Limited, a limited liability company duly registered under PIN P051227228 OK, judged with others not before court, and lawfully omitted from your value-added tax returns for the months of January 2016 to December 2016, an amount which affected your value-added tax liability by Kenya shillings 551,717,966 payable to the Commissioner as required by the Value-Added Tax Act number 35 of 2015. Tabitha, is it from you too?
No, too.
Joseph Karanja Breweries. Count number 8, you have been charged with fraud in relation to tax, contract section 87 clause A, as well as section 104 clause 3 of the Tax Procedures Act 2015. You said on diverse dates between 20th February 2017 and 20th January 2018, within the Republic of Kenya, being directors of Keroche Breweries Limited, a limited liability company duly registered under PIN P051227284K, judged with others not before court, and lawfully omitted from your value-added tax returns for the month of January 2017 to December 2017, an amount which affected your value-added tax liability by Kenya shillings 613,782,808 payable to the Commissioner as required by the Value-Added Tax Act number 35 of 2015. Tabitha, who are not true?
No.
Joseph Karanja Breweries. Count number 9, you have been charged with fraud in relation to tax, contract section 97 clause A, as well as section 104 clause 3 of the Tax Procedures Act 2015. It said on the diverse dates between 20th February 2018 and 20th January 2019, within the Republic of Kenya, being directors of Keroche Breweries Limited, a limited liability company duly registered under PIN P051227284K, dealt with hours not before court, unlawfully omitted from your value-added tax returns for the months of January 2018 to December 2018, an amount which affected your value-added tax liability by Kenya shillings 430,262,748, payable to the Commissioner as required by the Value Added Tax Act number 35 of 2015. Tabitha, Joseph Karanja Breweries, count number 10, to be charged with fraud in relation to tax under section 87, clause A, as well as section 104, clause 3 of the Tax Procedures Act 2015. It says on the birthday between 20th February 2019 and 20th July 2019, within the Republic of Kenya, the directors of Keroche Breweries Limited, a limited liability company, duly registered under PIN P051227284K, dealt with hours not before court, and lawfully omitted from your value-added tax returns for the months of January 2019 to June 2019, an amount which affected your value-added tax liability by Kenya shillings 186,074,738, payable to the Commissioner as required by the Value-Added Tax Act number 35 of 2015. Tabitha, is it wrong or true? No, true. Joseph Karanja Breweries Limited.
Plea of not guilty entered.
Your Honor, in this matter we have engaged my learned friend in the prosecution, and instead of making a long address on the issue of bail, I would require an indication from the prosecution whether they are opposing the release of the accused persons on bail.
Yes.
Now, we are not opposed to accused persons being released on bail, but we're praying for the court to consider the following. Your Honor, the total amount as per the charge sheet is 14 billion 451 million 836 375.
Sorry?
Sorry, 14 million.
Sorry?
14 billion.
Yes.
14 billion. Sorry. 14 billion. 451 million. 836,000. 375 Kenyan shillings. We're asking the court, as the court is giving the bail terms, to give the bail terms commensurate. We're also asking the court to consider that if the accused are found guilty, under section 104 of the Tax Procedures Act, 104.3, the sentence will be that of a fine not exceeding 10 million shillings, or double the tax evaded, whichever is higher, or to an imprisonment term not exceeding 10 years or to both. We are further asking the court to order that the accused persons deposit their passports, all their passports, not to leave the court's jurisdiction without the leave of the court. Those are the terms we are praying for.
Yes, Your Honor, in response to what my learned friend, Ms. Moniki, has submitted in relation to the terms, Your Honor, we have the following to say. One, the amount of 14 billion shillings, 14 odd billion shillings, which is the amount contained in the several counts in the charge sheet, is an amount which is disputed.
Yes.
And Your Honor, there is a statutory process for determining any dispute in relation to a tax assessment or demand. And therefore, we would want the court to take that into consideration in looking at the Tax Procedures Act and the offenses created therein. The whole legal regime is founded on the fact that there's a specific procedure governing assessment, demand, or disputation of tax. So the amount as we speak today is speculative until this court makes a determination of the issues that we're going to raise during the trial. The second issue is that the persons appearing before you under the law are presumed to be innocent. And at this stage, consideration of what may happen as a consequence of a finding of guilt is speculative and not relevant for purposes of considering whether to grant bail or not.
Yes.
Thirdly, the third consideration that I would want to bring to the attention of the court is that for all practical purposes, the three accused persons are one entity. Because Mr. Karanja and Mrs. Karanja are charged as directors of Keroche Breweries Limited. That company has only one pass. And a common source of revenue. So Your Honor, I would ask you, in consideration of the amount of bail, to put that into consideration. Because the terms really have a bearing or is instructive of the primary consideration when dealing with bail, and that primary consideration is whether or not the accused persons will attend, will be required to attend during a mention or a trial. The other issue that we would want the court to put into consideration, and we are grateful that yesterday in the evening, it was evidently clear that Mr. Karanja could not be kept in custody. Looking at his condition, medical condition, and his doctor, out of desperation, wrote a note which I've made available to the prosecution. Mr. Karanja has recently undergone a life-saving surgery. And to that extent, we appreciate the fact that the prosecution and the police were able to release him before 10 o'clock last night. And despite his medical condition and having been granted a free bond, he appeared this morning.
He was granted a free bond?
Yeah, free bond. It was not even he was not required to pay any money. He was not required to deposit any security, but was able to come here as early as possible for purposes of taking plea. So I would plead to the court that reading the Constitution, the right not only of arrested persons but even accused persons, the right of bail should not be tampered with, or there should never be stringent conditions placed unless there is material placed before the court as to why those conditions must be applied in relation to any accused person. We are a state governed by the Bill of Rights, which according to Article 19 is a fundamental condition and state of our democracy. And therefore I would have, or rather we would have been in a position to appreciate the conditions upon which these stringent measures are required. But no material has been placed before your Honor as to why those stringent measures should be applied.
Yes.
And plead with the court not to be attracted by these figures that we're seeing in the charge sheet. Even the best taxpayers, if we even go by the report last year, or the best taxpayers who were given awards for any taxpayer to have a tax demand of the amounts which are in the charge sheet will be an exceptional taxpayer. So, Your Honor, I would urge you, since there is no material placed before you, not to unnecessarily be persuaded that the figure of 14 billion shillings should be necessarily a factor to be taken into consideration in determining the terms of bail. So I urge you that to give us reasonable cash bail, and together with that, Your Honor, in respect of the company, that appropriate security be placed or be deposited with the court within 7 days. But the two accused persons, Mr. Karanja and Mrs. Karanja, be granted reasonable cash bail. Your Honor, the Bible says that what the Lord has put together, let no man cast asunder. Yesterday, that sin was committed. Mr. Karanja was thrown away from Mrs. Karanja. So in awarding the terms and conditions of bail, let not what the Lord has put together be cast asunder. So we urge that there should be a reasonable terms of bail, cash bail, that the two of them together would be able to deposit with the court. Yeah, exactly. As to the question of travel documents, I plead with the court that it would not be necessary in the circumstances for them to deposit their travel documents. By the sheer fact that the enterprise they run, which for very good measure they have taken to Naivasha, the kind of investment that they have established in Kenya, a lot of people would want to put that kind of investment in Nairobi or some big city. But that investment has been established and is operating in Naivasha. They are Kenyans. And there's no reason to suggest that they would abandon for any reason the running the operations of that important investment. And Mrs. Karanja, as has been pointed out, she's the chief executive officer of the company, involved in the day-to-day running of the enterprise. And Mr. Karanja is the chairman of the board of directors. So under those circumstances, they would not want to stay away from jurisdiction. But if the court is minded to direct that they deposit their travel documents, I would ask the court to require that to be done in the next 7 days. Because as they were arrested yesterday and appearing in court today, it was not anticipated that this condition would be required to be met. But we are saying this notwithstanding the fact that we would want to persuade the court that that freedom of movement, which is facilitated by a passport, should not be interfered with unless there are exceptional circumstances or material placed before the court.
Naam, kesi huko ukimwona James Sorengo ndio anashughulikia wawili hao wakiwa pale mahakamani, wameweza kukanusha mashtaka yaliyoweza kufikishwa mbele yao. Sasa ni baadhi tu yale utetezi ama unaotolewa
na kile ambacho huwa kinasubiriwa sana katika siku ya leo ni kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba unemwakilisha ameweza kuachiliwa kwa dhamana, kwa sababu kama litakosekana katika siku ya leo kuna uwezekano akalala kwa zaidi mpaka kuanza wiki ambayo inaweza kuja zaidi. Ni kitandawili ambacho tunasubiri, na pia kwa mujibu wa utaratibu wa mahakama ni kwamba hilo litaweza kuamuliwa leo, kama ataweza kupewa dhamana ama atazuiliwa litaweza kuafikiwa leo.
Hilo litaweza kuamuliwa hii leo.
Ama leo ni kufunguliwa kusomewa mashtaka peke yake.
Watakaposomewa mashtaka basi kinachofuata ni ombi la kuachiliwa kwa dhamana kutoka kwa wakili wa washtakiwa. Ombi ambalo huwa kwa kawaida linapingwa na upande wa mwendesha mashtaka mkuu na pale Alexander Muteti anaongoza kikundi hicho cha DPP. Kwa hiyo amekuwa pale na ataweza kuwa mwenye kupinga ombi lile la Orengo la kuweza kuachiliwa wale kwa dhamana.
Na kuna wawili wale walinzi ambao labda wao kwa hii leo hatakuwa wanaingia chini ya yale mashtaka ambao wanasomewa wale watu wengine. Wao ni mashtaka tofauti kwa kuweza kukaidi tu.
Naam, ya kukaidi na kuweza kuzuia haki kutendeka, yani obstruction of justice kama wanavyosema, kwa sababu walikosa kufungua ule mlango walipokuwa wakitakana kufungua.
Na bila shaka mengi yanaendelea, tutakuwa tunarudi huko baada ya muda usio kwa mrefu. Kwa hapo ulipo wewe salia hapo hapo.